Here's the deal. If you're one of those thrill seekers who likes jumping into a project cold with no setup, then keep watching and enjoy the ride. On the other hand, if you can't function without a bit of backstory, then check out the first video in this series of watercolor monster paintings. A handy link is in the description. Hi, I'm Irene, and welcome to part 2 of the Horrified series. Normally, I have little interest in fishmen, whether as friends or foes, so The Creature from the Black Lagoon is hardly a favorite movie of mine. In fact, it's likely been more than 30 years since I've last seen it. Heck, I haven't even bothered to watch The Shape of Water, and Guillermo del Toro is one of my favorite filmmakers. That's how disinterested I am in the part man, part fish monster trope. Am I using that word correctly? Trope? I'm experiencing language insecurity right out in the open. To maintain consistency, the process for marking off the border area was the same as last time. Also the same are the tools and supplies. The paper is 100% cotton Arches cold press. The brushes are all from Princeton, an Aqua Elite dagger and a couple of Neptune rounds. The paints are Da Vinci's Autumn watercolor set. This time the selected colors are Perylene green, Prussian blue, and gold ochre. So why did I choose this monster rather than, say, the Mummy or the Invisible Man? Because this was one of those times I felt a bit of a challenge would do me good. That's right, I don't go around drawing monsters willy-nilly. Dracula and Frankenstein aren't as challenging because they're very human-looking. All I'd have to do is draw a guy with a mean face and voila, a ghoul is born. That doesn't mean watery horrors aren't my thing, because there's quite a list of underwater creatures that have both scared and thrilled this landlubber. Everything from sharks and whales, to snakes and piranhas, to crocodiles and krakens. Leviathans from the Deep holds its own as a traditional horror subcategory, one that, in my opinion, works better on screen than it does on page. Whereas, again, in my opinion, ghost stories work better on page than on screen, which is probably why the short story is my preferred format for ghostly fiction. That said, there is a short story titled The Terror of the Water Tank by W.H. Hodgson. Not to be confused with the short story The Horror in the Water Tower by H.P. Lovecraft. The Terror of the Water Tank starts out like a murder mystery, but ultimately ends up in creature feature territory. It's quite short, and while some questions are answered, there's no satisfying conclusion. While it's not a shining example of the genre, it did stick with me because I found it interesting that it was published in 1907, a good decade or two before the birth of Weird Tales magazine, which played a big part in popularizing short horror fiction. I am fortunate to have a hardbound edition of a Weird Tales anthology from the 1980s, containing selected stories from the magazine's lifetime. It's seen better days, the spine is coming loose, and the cover jacket is missing. That last is what bugs me the most. Not to be mean or anything, but the cover art was a bit of hackery, taking a mysterious, monstrous figure emerging from mist and combining it with a Frank Frazetta painting. That painting had a Black Panther and a naked man in a defensive position. No, it wasn't direct plagiarism, The new piece omitted the panther and put clothes on the man. But still, being an artist, I have questions. I'm kind of insulted that they thought it was okay, but that's not what bugs me. What bugs me is that the cover is missing. I mean, it actually looked pretty good and was a fitting image for the contents. Hey, they didn't call it pulp writing for nothing. I was 7 years old when the movie Jaws came out. The memory is vague, and I couldn't say for sure if it instilled any fears. All I know is when it comes to water, I need to see the bottom. So tubs and pools are fine. Ponds, lakes, and oceans, however, are no-goes. You all can splash and frolic in deep, dark water all you want. I'll be on shore waiting to say, "Told you so." Of course, I'm talking about actually being in the water. Boats are a whole other story. Boats are fun, as long as they aren't easily tippable. The point is, I've seen way too many horror movies. My current favorite streaming program is Only Murders in the Building. It's what I turn to for a cozy mystery fix. So imagine my surprise when they broached the rather horrific topic of breeding crabmen. I came for bloody murders, thank you very much. Pretty sure horny crustaceans are in a different section of the bookstore. Kidding. I love it all. At this point, OMITB can do no wrong. Producer Mike always gets confused when I refer to it that way. OMITB? What's that? Then I have to explain it for the 12th time, which is weird because he's been watching the show too. Speaking of forgetfulness, there's a story my mother once told me concerning her mother. At one point, I suspect it was during the 1940s, Japan recalled their wartime currency. A deadline was set to exchange the old money for the new money. Well, I guess being old school and suspicious of banks, my grandmother had stashed their savings in a secret spot on their property. The problem was she couldn't remember where that spot was. She spent weeks searching the house and grounds, even resorting to tearing things apart, with no success. The deadline came and went, and she wailed and cried over the lost funds. Sometime later, the now useless money was discovered in their Shinto shrine. My mom was around 20 at the time, and as she told it, her mother was heartbroken and eventually glued those old bills to a shoji screen, completely covering it. I can just imagine visitors to the house commenting on how well-to-do she must be to decorate with money, which I imagine would set her off crying again. It's a sad story for sure, but I have to wonder, and this is something that's tickled my mind for some time. Is that where my interest in collage comes from? So the previous video was the first in this Horrified series, and in the comments, a viewer reminded me of my initial skepticism with this Da Vinci Autumn set and how useful it would be as a fall-time palette. Well, I can honestly say I'm having a blast with it. Most of the 6 individual colors may be vibrant, intense, and even a bit primary-centric, but if you like to play at mixing, it opens up a whole expanse of possibilities. I've only been choosing 3 colors for each of the Horrified pieces, and I'm delighted with the results. So thanks for that helpful comment, Anne. By the way, Anne has a channel called Art on the Creek, here on YouTube. She's great at explaining painting techniques and art tools and supplies. I admit it, I'm addicted to her videos. If you get a chance, check her out. The link is in the description. It had been a while since I last used Arch's cold press, and I'd forgotten just how good it is for watercolors. Yeah, the texture is a bit sandpapery, but in most cases, I'm fine with that. I've been enjoying Hahnemuhle collection cold press so much recently, but I do like having a variety of options. Cold press, hot press, rough press, Arches, Hahnemuhle, Fluid 100, B, Fabriano Artistico, Bamboo Mixed Media. Oh, we went to Artist and Craftsman Supply again recently. We purchased a couple of paint brushes, a number 4 round Princeton Aqua Elite, and a 1/4 inch bright from Princeton's Umbria series. I already have a number of Aqua Elites, and I love them. This is my first Umbria, though. You'll get to see those brushes in a future video. With the Umbria series, the hairs are tip-dyed synthetic fibers with medium stiffness, so I plan to devote that brush to gouache use. It's so pretty. The handle is sort of brown, sort of olive green. There's gold color printing on the handle and a gold tone ferrule. We also got a 1.5 Pilot parallel pen. What was really interesting, I saw they had a selection of Noodler's fountain pen inks. Pretty sure that's new because I hadn't seen them there in the past, so that was exciting. Mostly because I hope it leads to more ink brands coming in. Nothing against Noodler's products, I simply find their labels extremely busy. I'm sure the designs are larger scale works that have been reduced to fit the bottle. To my eyes, they're confusing and difficult to make out. I'm not proud of it, but packaging does make a difference to me, at least to a certain extent. On the flip side, I'm a little put off by the overly slick and stylish, which is how I see the inks from Ferris Wheel Press. Then again, I may just be pouting, because FWP is beyond my price range. The stinkers. Somehow, the drawing turned out cuter than intended. I mean, the facial expression was almost flirtatious. Well, I tried to correct that during the painting process, and only succeeded in making it look like the creature was wearing sunglasses. So, no, I'm not 100% pleased with this painting. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not important. Because I've got a little mystery going on in the house. Out of nowhere, the other day, a snack jar filled with circus peanuts showed up in the kitchen. That's right, those spongy orange confections are staring at me while I prepare the coffee. I'd rather have a pantry full of candy corns than even one of those nasty, mushy, mallowy... Why are they even called circus peanuts? Is it to fool us into thinking they're fun? Or is it because they've been circus-sized? Look, I wasn't about to re-watch an old snoozer of a 1950s black and white creature feature just for a 15-minute video. So I resorted to Cliff Notes. I mean, the Wikipedia/IMDb/Rotten Tomatoes Devil's Triangle, where curious people go, fall down a rabbit hole, get seriously discombobulated, and sometimes, mind, are never seen or heard from again. What I discovered is that several big-name directors came very close to remaking The Creature from the Black Lagoon. In the 1980s, it was John Landis. In the 1990s, it was John Carpenter. In the 2000s, it was Guillermo del Toro. That last one was a case of creative differences between the director and the studio. So Del Toro walked away and eventually made his Fishman movie, The Shape of Water. I repeat, I haven't seen that one, so you tell me, is it worth watching or not? Full disclosure, the other night I actually tried to watch the original Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know. Maybe the 50s were dark days for merman stories. I just couldn't get into it. Earlier in this video, I was too harsh when I said I wasn't that interested, because I am kind of intrigued by the concept. Unfortunately, I find the movie to be silly and flat. Good for MST3King, not so good for thrills or chills. To be fair, whoever designed the look of the costume did a good job. The technology just hadn't arrived yet. The point is, it may have been exciting at the time, but these days it's hard to get reeled in by a guy in a foam rubber suit. So I say, reboot it already and let the Fishman fly to his full potential as a guild menace. I'm happy to share this classic Universal monster portrait. I had fun with this piece, even if the face turned out odd. But guess what? The third and last part of this Horrified series is the one I like the most. So keep your eyes peeled. It'll be coming soon. Thanks for watching and for hanging in until the end. As if that wasn't enough, I'm going to ask for even more from you. Please hit like, subscribe, share, or leave a comment. Not that I'm needy or anything, but everybody likes validation, right? Until next time, check the water before jumping in. You don't want the last thing you hear to be, "Told you so." And stay artsy, my friends.